Now, when it comes to Google Ads, your product feed is literally one of the most important things you can get right in order to get that continued success, growth, and eventually scale with your e-commerce brand. But unfortunately, like with a lot of other things, e-commerce store owners have zero clue as to how to properly optimize their product feeds so that Google's algorithm actually prefers them and ends up making them pay less per link click, per add to cart, and so on and so forth when it comes to Google Ads. I would actually argue that majority of e-commerce store owners, and this used to me in the beginning by the way, would just launch their Google Merchant Center account or just connect their product feed via an app like SimProcess if they're using Shopify or Data Feed Watch or anything out there to their Google Merchant Center account and completely forget about it. If this is you, let me tell you that this is one of the worst things you can do for your Google Ads account. And this is simply because there are many moving parts to a fully functioning product feed and to a fully functioning Google Ads account strategy. These parts kind of range from the attributes that you use, that you set up within your Google Merchant Center feed or for your product's data feed itself, to the custom labels, to even the errors associated with your product data feed. Because if you haven't already heard about it, or if you haven't checked yourself within your Google Merchant Center account, you will see a big section called the diagnostic section on the left hand side, which is essentially the section which tells you what errors are currently visible within your product data feed. And if you don't take care of any of these things which I just mentioned, you pretty much set yourself up for immediate failure. So let's kind of now understand exactly what the basics are of feed optimization. Because to be honest with you, feed optimization, a part of it only has to do with what you do in the back end with an app like SimProcess or Data Feed Watch. The rest of the optimization happens with things like the sync settings that you have from your Shopify store itself or from your WooCommerce store itself to the actual software which imports your product data. Or it also has to do with the internal product feed settings you have, and this has to do with the actual software settings you use. But also, one thing a lot of people don't realize is product feed optimization has a lot to do with search engine optimization. You just can't get away from SEO when it comes to Google Ads. So let's start off with the first things, which is the sync settings from Shopify. And keep in mind, you don't have to be using Shopify for this. You could be using WooCommerce, Magento, whatever you are using, and whatever software you're then using to submit your product data feed from your e-commerce platform onto your Google Merchant Center. You want to go into the back end. For the sake of this example, I'm right here within the SimProcess app, which I recommend for Shopify because it's extremely easy. It lets you do a lot of optimization. So the first step of proper product data feed optimization starts from the first option right here under the settings drop-down menu, which is called Sync Settings from Shopify. If you go ahead and click on it, you will see a lot of different settings pop up on the left-hand side, on the right-hand side, and so on and so forth. It's extremely important for you to get all of these settings right to then optimize your product data feed and to ensure it's running on the best possible settings. So we now start from the sync settings from Shopify. Here's how I have personally set it out and what I recommend you do as well in order to ensure your product data feed is as optimized as possible. So the first one, which is which products need to be submitted in feed, you have the option of choosing all products or product from a collection. Even if you want to exclude certain products, it's best if you choose all products here, because then this submits all of your products onto the Google Merchant Center and then onto your Google Ads account, which is essentially what you want to do. Then you can go in, customize, exclude some products, and so on and so forth. But second one, product title preference. I prefer to leave it on the default product title rather than the SEO title, because again, my default product title is what I want to show on my own Shopify store, the product page side of things. And the SEO title, optimizing that is sort of like just an additional step, which I really don't want to be taking. So it's better to just leave it on the default product title. Product description preference, again, the first option rather than SEO description. Variant submission preference, all variations, because again, when you submit all your variations, later on you can go in and exclude certain things as you want them to be excluded. But the next one, append variant name to product title. You want to append your variant name to the product title at the very end. So for instance, if you're selling a 3D printer and then you have different variations like black, white, red, yellow, blue, green, purple, and so on and so forth, what's going to happen is the main product title is going to be 3D printer, which appears on the Google shopping listing side of things. but then you're gonna have the variant name added at the very end. So if it's a blue colored 3D printer, it will say blue at the end or whatever variant name you decided to give it, or green or blue or purple, and so on and so forth. So that's essentially what this option right here does. It's very crucial because again, you want your customers to know exactly what variation they're up for purchase, they're about to click on. And also, one benefit of having multiple different variations is each variation then acts as its own product, because a blue colored variation is going to have completely different results from a green colored one, from a red colored one, and so on and so forth. So that's why you want to have that option chosen. Inventory policy, whatever you see which has to do with policy, leave it on and leave it on follow, because if you don't abide by Google's policies, then we know the drill. Google is going to suspend us and we don't want to go down the rabbit. Whatever policy you see, leave it on follow or on, or whatever the option might be. Product image options, you don't want to choose the second image because there's no reason for you to do that. Submit additional images, make sure you have that checked. Submit a rich product description, make sure you have that checked. So after you have chosen all of these specific options, go ahead and click on resync if they weren't chosen before, and then that should kind of get things in proper order. But you're not done here yet. In order to properly optimize your product data feed, the next step of optimization is the default settings section. Now, this becomes extremely easy if you're already within a niche. So whatever niche you have, all you really need to do is come down here and choose that given niche. So for example, you sell everything related to animal and pet supplies. Don't be too specific and don't choose something like bird supplies if that's just one specific category out of the whole which you sell. You would rather be better off selling within animal and pet supplies in general, because again, this is the default setting, this is the default product category which your software, which your app that you're using is going to submit onto the Google Merchant Center. So you want to be as specific as possible while being as relevant as possible. So again, what I mean by this is, if you're, for example, if you scroll all the way down, if you're selling shirts and tops, that's like your main category, just go ahead and click shirts and tops. You don't want apparel and accessories and then clothing, because that's too broad. It's not specific enough, because if you see right here, under clothing, there's a lot of different things that pop up, like dresses, one pieces, outerwear, chaps, coats and jackets, and so on and so forth. So that becomes way too broad, and then all of a sudden it becomes way too narrow. So you want to be right in the ballpark what you sell. So if your brand really only sells shorts, you want to just choose shorts. Don't go too broad and don't go too narrow. You want to be right in the middle. That's essentially the first thing you want to do. As you saw earlier, this, for me, it was chosen as home and garden, because this e-commerce brand is in the home and garden niche. It sells a lot of different home and garden related products like outdoor decor, patios, fire pit tables, so on and so forth. So that's why we're going to keep it very broad, but in the sameness general area. So again, don't go off topic and just say something like home accessories or just garden accessories, because this e-commerce brand caters to both. So we want to keep that in mind. But once you do that, then default age group, again, it's gonna really depend on what kind of products you sell. I like to normally leave this blank unless I know for a fact that what I'm selling is like adult toys. In that case, I'm just gonna click adults. But otherwise, best bet is to just leave it blank. Default gender, unisex, unless you're, again, a male store only or a female store only. Default product identifier, you can submit a brand name, MPN, and GTIN, but if you don't really have any GTINs here, it's best to submit it every product as a custom product. So that's what I would do here, because this kind of helps you get rid of that GTIN error that we have to deal with later on within the Google Merchant Center. So that's kind of like a go around. But these are the main general settings you should be operating your e-commerce brand with, at least initially, because this is the first step of proper product data feed optimization. Now, once you have done this, and you might already be getting a lot of results already, or you might not be getting results too much at all in this case, you want to go to the manage product section, because once you get all of that data gathered up, you can then use it to do further optimization. Because if you see right here, what I did with this e-commerce brand is, as I had enough data coming in, as I got results, I then went in further and I chose some specific things, some attributes, some labels, and so on and so forth that were catered to that individual product itself. So the way to properly optimize your product data feed from the product section is to choose any given product which you want to actually start the optimization process with. Now, I recommend that if you have a new winning product, you just found out that it's a winning product, or you have some old products which you just want to optimize their feed, these two ways are really the best way to go. If you have already optimized one product, you want to leave it be for about 15 to 20 days before you go in and try to optimize something again. And the main thing you want to understand with product data feed optimization is if you do it too often, there is a very big chance you might end up completely ruining your entire optimization. But keeping that in mind, let's click on this first product right here to assume that we want to optimize this product's data feed. So what your Google Merchant Center gets, what your Google shopping listings actually showcase when they're getting advertised, is the following information, whatever you have inserted right over here. So for this product, we have a lot of things blank. All we have really is the product title and description, and then that's pretty much it. There's no kinds of Google product categories chosen for this product, no custom attributes, detailed product characteristics, and so on and so forth. So the actual personalization of your product data feed happens on this page. So first things first, let's scroll down a bit to see where we can actually start the optimization process. So it essentially starts on the Google product category section. Let's assume now that you are an e-commerce brand that sells within the pet supplies niche. You are a pet e-commerce brand, but this product right here, it's actually a product that's a bird cage, bird bath product, and you're getting a lot of good success with it. But you don't necessarily have a Google product category chosen, or the product category you already have chosen, it's too broad. It's maybe just bird supplies or just pet supplies in general. So the first step of feed optimization is to come in to this page and choose that given product category which suits your product the best. So if I already know that my product is a bird cage, bird bath, then what I want to do is I want to find that given category from the category section. If I don't find it, I want to find something that is as closely possible to it as possible. So for example, if I had not found this, I would just stick with the bird cage accessories because that's what gets closest to what I'm trying to sell. But in this case, I did find that, so I'm gonna go ahead and choose that. That's really first step of product feed optimization. Just keep in mind for this step that you need to be as specific as possible. But once you have that done, the second part of feed optimization, product optimization, starts with custom attributes. Now, I say this in a lot of my other videos that you need to provide as much information as possible, but exactly what is the most important information here? So to illustrate that a bit further, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go on over to Google and type in the word 3D printer because I wanna show you exactly how Google works. So if you look right here on the left, we see color, we see brand, we see shipping and returns, discover, and so on and so forth. So these labels that you see right here, they actually directly come from this custom attributes section. That, like as you can see, color, material, size, pattern, cost of goods sold, and so on and so forth. Of course, you don't really see all of them, but majority of them are here. So what that essentially means is you want to have the correct chosen ones for the main ones which consumers actually rank the products by. So for example, if I'm a customer looking to buy a 3D printer, obviously if I don't want to really, buy any type of color, I only want a white colored one, I'm gonna go in here and choose that. So the benefit of really choosing the correct custom attributes, making sure all of these sections are fully filled up, is that when you click on white when doing shopping, your ad will be the one that shows up here versus somebody who doesn't actually have that chosen. Then Google needs to actually figure out if your ad follows that or not. And as you can see right here, some black ones are showing up. And this is simply because, as you can see right here, the custom attribute this seller, so Amazon here, chose was actually white, despite them actually selling a black one. So you see how this is completely irrelevant. And because it's irrelevant, obviously if I'm trying to search for a white 3D printer, I'm not gonna click on it. So what happens? Their CTR start to drop significantly, and as a result, their quality score associated with this product and their overall results for this product start to diminish. That's exactly why it's so crucial for you to come into the custom attributes section and make sure you are choosing the right kind of options available right over here. Again, to make sure that you don't end up put in a wrong kind of label, because that's what happened to Amazon here. Now, sometimes even if you provide, and what's gonna happen if you actually don't even have anything chosen right now within the custom attributes section is Google's algorithm is gonna need to kind of decide and judge on its own whether you sell a white colored product, a black one, or blue one, red one, green one, and so on and so forth. And as we already know, you never want to really put full control into Google's algorithm because it can easily misinterpret what you are selling like it did right here, even if you have another kind of colored word in there or any type of other word that it associates with something else. So like here, they had black here, but Google did not catch on to that. It actually caught on to what they had put and submitted in the back end, which is white. So again, that's why custom attributes, super important. You definitely want to have colors, material you also want to have if you can. You don't really need this because it's not going to show up on Google's end. Sizing, again, very important if that's an important part of your product. And pattern as well. Again, this is one where you don't necessarily need to have that. But once you do that, move on down to detailed product characteristics. This is when you can choose between new, used, refurbished, and so on and so forth. Gender, again, if it really requires a gender, like for example, 3D printer, doesn't really matter with gender, so we can leave that as it is. Size system, something you can choose if sizing is an important part of your product. And then basically everything else that's mentioned right here, like age group, again, if it's needed, size type, and so on and so forth. The main ones that you do get right, however, is the custom attribute section, because a lot of these Google actually uses to then rank your product. And then if you scroll down, these are pretty much like custom labels. So if you want to do some kind of segmentation with your products, like custom label 0, you can call this high ticket. If, for example, this is a high ticket product, and then you want to actually put high ticket products inside of one campaign, low ticket products inside another, and so on and so forth. This is how you do it with custom labels. But that's essentially pretty much it for the product data feed optimization on the app side, on the software side of things, meaning with Simprosys. Now, kind of scrolling back up to the titles and to the descriptions, essentially why I said the last part, which is SEO, is so important with data optimization, with product feed optimization, is because again, your product titles, whatever is inserted within that title, is what Google crawls through and uses to then rank your product. Going back to the 3D printer example, all of these little 3D printers that are showing up here, they're only showing up there because of the title which they're currently running on. So for example, if this product was only called Ender 3 or just Ender, for example, if we just type in the keyword Ender, because, you know, for example, we see Ender, this is actually a real branded product. So that means this is a different case scenario than with a product, for example, that is in a fashion niche. So for example, let's say you're trying to sell a Disney t-shirt. If you write Disney t-shirt, what you're gonna get is a lot of t-shirts which are related to Disney. Maybe they have some kind of Disney symbol on them, some Disney logos, and so on and so forth. However, if you don't write the word Disney in there, and if you just leave it as t-shirt, now see what happens to that. Immediately, those Disney shirts go away and you don't see Disney shirts anymore here. What is kind of replacing them is just these generic t-shirts. I mean, as you can see right here, they really have no kind of association with them. They don't have a specific niche with them, a specific category of t-shirts they're within. It's just a general t-shirt. And the reason why SEO is so important is so that you don't end up, if you're selling Disney t-shirts, Tarzan t-shirts, whatever the case might be, you don't end up ranking for a keyword that's very broad or something that is completely irrelevant, like it did right here, where these people are ranking for a t-shirt, but I can almost guarantee you they're losing a lot of money. You don't want to do this. You want to be as specific as possible, ranking for keywords which people are searching for, and that's only done through proper search engine optimization techniques. So that's sort of like the final part of product feed optimization, making sure your titles, making sure your descriptions that get shown on Google's end are following certain techniques, because if you don't follow it properly, what's going to happen is you're going to end up confusing the algorithm to the point where it ranks your product for the wrong thing. And if you end up ranking for the wrong thing, then that's just when things just start going down the wrong rabbit hole. You get the wrong audience on your website. And of course, if they're not going to purchase, then your entire account gets impacted negatively. So that's what you want to really keep in mind. But now moving on to the more important things of product feed optimization and what you want to keep in mind. So you want to understand product feed optimization is an ongoing process. It's not something you come in here one day, you do, and then you forget about it because life's good. That's all you have to do. That's not going to work. It's going to lead you to very short-term results, if any results at all. It's a process of you continuously optimizing things as results come in, and then basing your next optimizations based on these current ones. So it's the cycle that just keeps on going and going and going as long as you sell that product and as long as you scale your e-commerce brand. So remember, keeping that in mind, you want to optimize your product data feed every 15 to 20 days. No more, no less, just every 15 to 20 days. And in fact, I recommend if you have a mega winning product, don't even touch it at all until sales start to kind of slow down. Because if you touch something that's working and you end up optimizing the wrong thing, you're gonna be in my comment section saying things like, you don't know what you're talking about, you made me lose my winning product. This is such a horrible strategy. Unsubscribe, dislike. Just know that I warned you that if you do it too often, especially on products that are working, it's gonna lead you to a lot of wrong results. So keep it going, keep it flowing, don't touch it too often, especially if it's working. But in addition, you should only be making further optimizations, again, based on the data you're already getting. So don't just go in blindly trying to make any random changes because you think that's the right thing to do. Focus on using the data, focus on making data-based optimizations. And finally, also, it should not be done on the products that are working. It should only be done on one product at a time, especially if that product is already getting results. So don't go in and don't make changes with the feed side of things for all of your products, because then if all of those changes aren't really that good, or what's going to happen is initially those changes are definitely going to take an impact on performance, so it might actually slow it down before it gets back to normal and increases. So in that time period, you might go from like $5,000 a day in sales to like $1,000 a day in sales. So prevent that from happening. Take it kind of one step at a time. Don't just go all in crazy with every single product on your brand right away. But if this is kind of too much for you and you're already doing $30,000 per month or more in revenue and you want to scale further with Google Ads, go onto my website at yourmarketing.com and book a free call with me to see how we can possibly work together and make that happen. But if you found any type of value in this video, destroy that like button, destroy that subscribe button, and watch any of these two videos right in front of my face to take your e-commerce journey to the next level. And I will see you in my next video.